So friends, it looks like Trump flunky Kari Lake may be moving in the direction of contempt proceedings. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, remember Kari Lake? Yeah, sadly, so do I. She ran for governor of Arizona and she lost. She ran for the United States Senate and she lost. She was successfully sued for defamation and had to settle. She is a conspiracy theorist who pushed the lie that Donald Trump won the 2020 presidential election, and on and on and on. You know, if you want to read in substance what is perhaps the world's worst resume, you can look her up on Wikipedia. So, of course, with that background, Donald Trump made her senior advisor to the U.S. Agency for Global Media, USAGM. And now, Kari Lake is a defendant in her capacity as acting CEO of USAGM. And the presiding judge in her case, Judge Royce Lamberth, who is a lion of the federal bench. You know, he is, I'm going to say, legendary in D.C. criminal justice and civil justice circles. Well, Judge Lamberth just had some choice words for Kari Lake. Let's start with the new reporting. This from Politico. Headline: Judge pauses cuts to U.S. Agency for Global Media. Judge Royce Lamberth said the agency's concerning disrespect for court orders under the leadership of Kari Lake would justify contempt proceedings. And that article begins: a federal judge has paused the Trump administration's plan to lay off more than 500 employees at the U.S. Agency for Global Media, most from Voice of America, while warning that senior officials there had repeatedly failed to comply with his orders to preserve the international broadcaster's key operations. U.S. District Judge Royce Lamberth said the agency's concerning disrespect for court orders under the leadership of longtime Trump ally Kari Lake would justify contempt proceedings. He said the agency appeared to mislead him about its plans for layoffs, despite his repeated concerns that leaders were cutting staff so deeply that the agency couldn't comply with legal requirements to broadcast into areas of the world with limited freedom of the press. Quote, the court no longer harbors any doubt that defendants lack a plan to comply with the preliminary injunction and instead have been running out the clock on the fiscal year while remaining in violation of even the most meager reading of USAGM and Voice of America's statutory obligations, wrote Judge Lamberth, a Reagan appointee based in Washington. Lamberth, in particular, noticed that USAGM's deep cuts had led the agency to fall short of legal requirements that it broadcast in places to subvert censorship by authoritarian regimes like North Korea, as well as in certain areas of Eastern Europe and the Middle East. Lamberth's biting ruling followed similarly scathing criticism of him by Lake in a court-ordered deposition. Lake, asked about her public criticism of Lamberth, ticked through a list of his rulings. His handling of numerous criminal cases involving January 6 defendants, his blockade of the Trump administration's effort to move transgender women inmates to men's prisons. Here is some of what Lake said, quote, I think some of his rulings have been absurd. As I said, terrible. Lake said of the judge in the September 9 session, a transcript of which was made public last week. Quote, "He went crazy on the J6ers. He wants transgender men who are violent, cross-dressing men who are mentally ill, to be in a jail cell with women. I actually know the difference between men and women, and I actually give a shit about women and their safety, so I don't love his rulings, but I don't have any disdain in my heart for this man." Okay, friends, a couple of takeaways. First of all, Judge Royce Lamberth generally doesn't flinch in the face of governmental misconduct. How do I know he doesn't flinch? Two ways. First of all, I tried a 6-month RICO case. I did a 6-month trial in Judge Lamberth's courtroom. He presided over that case. I spent all day, every business day, in that courtroom. And, I can tell you that the man is a phenomenal jurist who cares deeply about not only the rule of law, not only the Constitution, not only the rules of evidence and the rules of procedure, but the way the parties, meaning the prosecution and the defense, or the plaintiff and the respondent in civil litigation, the way the parties conduct themselves, they better not step out of line ethically. They better not flout the rules of the court, or there's going to be hell to pay, because Judge Lamberth doesn't flinch, particularly in the face of governmental, DOJ, executive branch misconduct. And the second reason I can say that with complete confidence is in his nearly 38 years on the federal bench, he was appointed by President Ronald Reagan. Judge Lamberth has held government officials up to and including multiple cabinet secretaries in contempt for violating court orders. No, he does not flinch in the face of governmental misconduct. And Kari Lake, she seems like the only thing she ever really cares about is how well lit she is when she steps in front of a camera. She doesn't seem to care at all what tumbles out of her mouth, as evidenced by that deposition transcript that we read a few minutes ago. So if she thinks that she can, bulldoze her way through this litigation, bulldoze her way through Judge Lamberth's courtroom and over the top of Judge Lamberth, she's got another thing coming. She will be held in contempt if Judge Lamberth believes the evidence is there that she is intentionally violating his court orders. You know why? Because to Judge Lamberth, justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.